Let's talk about lettuce. Because if you think lettuce is boring, you have clearly never pulled a crisp, perfect head of romaine out of your own backyard and made a salad so fresh it almost doesn't need dressing. We're talking about one of the easiest, fastest, most rewarding crops you can possibly grow at home. And today you're going to learn exactly how to do it. A lot of it. Like embarrassingly a lot. Stick with me until the end because I'm going to give you the one container growing trick that turns a tiny patio or balcony into a full-on lettuce factory, and most gardeners completely miss it. We're covering romaine, we're covering iceberg, we're going from seed all the way to harvest, and we're getting into the tips that actually matter, whether you're growing in the ground or in pots, and whether you're gardening in the cold temperate zones or in the heat of zone 9. Because yes, where you live changes everything about when and how you grow, and we're going to sort all that out. Let's go. Romaine, the king of the garden bed. If you're only going to grow one type of lettuce this year, make it romaine. Seriously. It's crispy, it's sweet, it's satisfying, and it is absolutely spectacular, fresh from the garden in a way that store-bought simply cannot compete with. Once you taste homegrown romaine, you will never look at a plastic bag of salad the same way again. Romaine is an upright grower. It forms tall, elongated heads with thick ribs and deep green outer leaves that gradually pale to a buttery, tender heart in the center. That heart is gold. That's what you're after, and getting there is easier than you think. Romaine loves cool weather. Period. It does its absolute best work when daytime temperatures are sitting between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. It can handle light frost. We're talking down to about 28 degrees Fahrenheit for short periods, which makes it perfect for spring and fall growing in most of the country. In temperate zones like the Pacific Northwest, New England, or the upper Midwest, you've got a beautiful long window in both spring and fall to just let romaine go wild. You can start it as early as 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date, and again in late summer for a fall harvest. Now if you're gardening in Zone 9, think Florida, Arizona, parts of Texas, or California's Central Valley. The game is totally different. Your romaine season is essentially the winter. You're planting in October, November, even into December, and harvesting through February and March before the heat shuts everything down. Summer in Zone 9 is not lettuce weather. The heat will bolt your plants almost instantly, meaning they'll shoot up, flower, and turn bitter seemingly overnight. Work with your climate, not against it. Spacing matters a lot with romaine. Give each plant about 10 to 12 inches of space. You want that air circulation. Crowd them and you'll invite disease. Space them out and they'll reward you with heads you'll actually be proud of. One of the best things you can do for romaine, or honestly any lettuce, is keep the soil consistently moist. Not waterlogged, not bone dry. Think of it like a wrung-out sponge. Lettuce is about 95% water, and the flavor and texture depend on keeping that moisture supply steady throughout the growing cycle. Inconsistent watering leads to tip burn on the leaves and bitter flavor. Consistent watering leads to that sweet, crispy magic. Romaine is ready to harvest in about 70 to 75 days from transplant, though you can absolutely start harvesting outer leaves much earlier than that if you can't wait. And honestly, you probably won't be able to. And speaking of waiting, iceberg lettuce is a whole different challenge, and the way you grow it perfectly is one of the most underrated gardening wins you can achieve at home. Before we go on to the next segment, hit that subscribe button right now. There's much more coming on growing your own food, and you don't want to miss a thing. Iceberg, the underdog worth growing. Iceberg gets a bad rap. People write it off as the boring lettuce. Watery, flavorless, the beige of the salad world. But here's the thing. They've never grown their own. Homegrown iceberg is nothing like what you find at the grocery store. It's sweeter, crunchier, and more flavorful than any store version you've ever had, because commercial iceberg is bred for shelf life and shipping, not for taste. Yours is bred for your dinner table, and that makes all the difference. Iceberg is a heading lettuce, and that means your job is to get it to form a tight, dense, compact head. That's the whole mission. And to do that, everything needs to align: timing, water, spacing, and temperature. Like romaine, iceberg is a cool season crop and arguably even more temperature sensitive. It heads up best when temperatures stay between 45 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Too warm and the head never forms properly. You'll get loose, floppy leaves instead of that satisfying tight ball. In temperate zones, your ideal planting window is early spring, getting transplants into the ground 4 to 6 weeks before last frost, or a late summer planting for fall harvest. The fall crop often produces the best heads because the temperatures drop naturally as the plant matures, which is exactly what you want. In Zone 9, again, this is a winter crop. Plant transplants in October or November for heads that will be ready January through March. Do not try to push iceberg into summer in hot climates. It will bolt before it heads, and you'll end up with something that tastes like sadness. Spacing for iceberg is non-negotiable. Give each plant a full 12 inches, ideally up to 14. Iceberg forms wide heads that need room. Crowding them means they'll never head properly, and you'll have created the perfect humid environment for fungal issues. Here's a tip specific to iceberg that most guides skip: blanching. As the outer leaves begin wrapping around and forming the head, you can gently tie those outer leaves up and around the head with a loose piece of twine or a rubber band, just for a week or so. This keeps sunlight off the interior, keeps the inner leaves pale and tender, and protects that beautiful heart. It's a little extra step, but the payoff is that perfect, crunchy, buttery center that makes homegrown iceberg something special. Iceberg takes longer than romaine. Expect 80 to 90 days from transplant to a full head. Patience is required. But the good news is that all of this starts from seed, and growing lettuce from seed is one of the most satisfying things you can do as a gardener. Growing lettuce from seed, where the magic starts. Here's where things get really fun, because growing lettuce from seed is fast, cheap, and incredibly satisfying. And once you crack the code, you'll never buy a transplant again. Lettuce seeds are tiny, like really tiny. And they have one quirk you need to know about. They need light to germinate. Don't bury them deep. You're pressing them gently onto the surface of your seed starting mix, or burying them no more than 1/8 of an inch, just barely covered, or not at all. Then you keep that surface consistently moist. A spray bottle works great here. And you wait. In good conditions, lettuce germinates fast. You can see sprouts in as little as 2 to 4 days. That's almost instant gratification in gardening terms. Starting seeds indoors gives you a huge head start, especially in temperate zones where you want to get plants out early in spring. Start seeds indoors 4 to 6 weeks before you plan to transplant. Use a good lightweight seed starting mix, not heavy garden soil. Keep your trays somewhere with consistent temperature, around 65 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and give them as much light as possible once they sprout. A south-facing window or a simple grow light works well. Once your seedlings have their first true leaves, those are the second set of leaves that come in, looking more like actual lettuce. It's time to think about thinning or transplanting. If you're direct sowing outdoors, thin your seedlings to proper spacing. It feels brutal to pull healthy little plants, but crowded seedlings never become great heads. The ones you leave will thank you. In Zone 9, you might be starting seeds outdoors in fall, directly in the ground or in containers, when temperatures have dropped back into that sweet zone. Because the climate is mild even in winter, you can sow directly outdoors with great results from October through January. One of the best strategies for any climate is succession planting. Instead of sowing all your seeds at once and getting slammed with more lettuce than you can eat in a 2-week window, sow a small batch every 2 to 3 weeks. You get a continuous harvest that stretches for months, and you never have more lettuce than you can actually use. It sounds simple because it is, and it works beautifully. Once you've got seeds sorted and plants going, the next question is where they're growing, and whether you put them in the ground or in containers makes a bigger difference than most people realize. In the ground or in containers, tips that actually work. If you're growing in the ground, lettuce is one of the most forgiving crops you can put in your garden beds. But there are a few things that will take your harvest from decent to absolutely spectacular. Soil prep is everything. Lettuce has a shallow root system, so it doesn't need deep, rich soil, but it does need loose, well-draining soil that holds moisture. Before planting, work in a generous amount of compost. This does double duty. It improves drainage in heavy clay soils, improves moisture retention in sandy soils, and feeds your plants with gentle, steady nutrition. Lettuce is not a heavy feeder, but it does appreciate a balanced start. In the ground, think about sun exposure carefully. Lettuce wants full sun in cool weather, but partial shade becomes your best friend as temperatures climb. If you can position your lettuce where it gets morning sun and afternoon shade, you'll extend your harvest window significantly, especially in the shoulder seasons when temperatures can swing dramatically. Mulching your ground-grown lettuce is one of the highest return moves you can make. A couple of inches of straw or shredded leaves around your plants keeps the soil temperature cool, holds in moisture, and keeps soil from splashing up onto leaves during watering, which reduces disease pressure. It also keeps weeds down, which is just a bonus on top of a bonus. Now, containers. Growing lettuce at home in pots is one of the most exciting discoveries in gardening because the results can be just as impressive as in-ground growing and the flexibility is unbeatable. You can move containers out of heat into shade, onto a balcony, onto a porch. You're in control of the microclimate in a way that in-ground gardening just can't offer. For containers, go wider rather than deeper. Lettuce roots are shallow. You don't need a 12-inch deep pot. What you need is width and surface area. A wide, shallow pot, even a window box, gives you space for multiple plants in a single container. Fill it with a high-quality potting mix, not garden soil. Garden soil compacts in containers and doesn't drain well. Good potting mix stays loose and airy, which is exactly what lettuce roots need. Here's the container trick most people miss. Pot-grown lettuce dries out much faster than in-ground lettuce, especially in warm or windy conditions. In pots, you may need to water every single day during warm stretches. Stick your finger an inch into the soil. If it's dry at that depth, water it. Don't guess. Underwatering container lettuce is the number one reason people get bitter, bolted plants and blame the seed when it was actually the watering schedule. In Zone 9 specifically, containers are almost a superpower. When a warm spell rolls through in February and your lettuce starts looking stressed, you can pick up the pot and move it somewhere cooler. That kind of climate control is just not possible with in-ground beds. One more container tip. The cut and come again varieties, like leaf lettuces, butterhead, oak leaf, and lolo rosso, thrive in containers and give you weeks of continuous harvest by simply snipping outer leaves and letting the center keep growing. It's like a lettuce plant that just keeps giving. Whether you're chasing that perfect romaine heart, coaxing a tight iceberg head in the cool of winter, or filling a container on your back porch with more cut and come again leaf lettuce than your family can keep up with, you now have everything you need to make it happen. Start with good seed, respect the seasons in your zone, keep the water steady, and give your plants the the space to thrive. Homegrown lettuce isn't just salad. It's the freshest, most alive food you can put on your table, and every single bite is something you made from the ground up. That's all for now. Subscribe to see more.